Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
Hey there, Eric. I'm excited to be here and ready to rock and roll.
You always are, Edgar. And I love this new album that you've done, Brother Johnny, and listening to the tracks. You have brought on some incredible guest artists besides your own great ability. How did you get everybody to hop into this project with you?
It really wasn't hard. The people who ended up on it are the people who really wanted to do it. And, there was so much love and respect for Johnny. And, I was somewhat hesitant in doing this album. I spent some years not making this album after Johnny's passing.
Right.
I had some deal offers, and that's exactly what they felt like, deal offers. And I just wasn't ready to make this album emotionally. And things just fell into place over a period of years. I'd like to acknowledge my lovely wife, Monique, to whom I've been happily and blissfully married 43 years now. We just celebrated our 43rd anniversary. Not bad for rock and rollers. And in California to boot. So, but she helped me realize that this was the right thing to do. So when I asked her, she was very definite, and she said, well, you're always talking about how Johnny is your all-time musical hero, and you wouldn't be where you are if it weren't for him. Well, here's your chance to acknowledge that. You owe that to yourself, to Johnny, and to the world. And she was so right about that. So I just want to thank Monique for giving me the strength and courage to make this record.
And that's what it felt like too, Edgar, to me, when you came out with this record and with the singles that first came out and everything, and obviously having such incredible artists such as Joe Bonamassa, Keb Mo, David Grissom, Kenny Wayne Shepherd. I mean, the list goes on and on. But it seems like the timing was right, because I'm certain, when your brother Johnny passed away, it's certainly sad for all of us as musical fans of his, but especially you, as him being your big brother. And you guys, your careers always kind of intertwined a bit. As we were talking before we started the interview, Johnny was much more rootsy blues, and obviously all the work he did with Muddy Waters. And then yours was more rock and roll, and with everything that you did with keyboards and saxophone and with the Edgar Winter band, to where, you had the hit Frankenstein and also Free Ride, and you guys were musicians, but also you had different, taste in music as well.
Absolutely true. And one of the other big differences is that Johnny had that drive and determination, that desire. Ever since I can remember, he was going to be a star. And, he watched Bandstand and read all the magazines, and he was Johnny Cool Daddy Winter with the pompadour and the shades and the guitars and the girls. And I was like the quiet kid that played all the instruments. And that actually leads into one of the major songs on the album that you mentioned when we were talking earlier before the interview started, Lone Star Blues. The irony of that being that Johnny worked lifelong to achieve that goal. And when he finally got there and seemingly had everything, fame, money, success, adoring fans, it wasn't what he expected. And I remember him saying, Edgar, I never thought it would be like this. I feel so alone and cut off from people. It's as though I'm invisible, like there's this image that has taken over my life and I've disappeared. No one really knows who I am. I don't know who to trust and who to talk to. And that was difficult. And it's so hard to explain to anybody because fame is so shiny and attractive. And you'd think, well, how could you just not be anything but grateful? but it's something you have to experience in order to understand. And I went through it myself. So when I wrote Lone Star Blues, I tried to write that in Johnny's voice to express those feelings that he had early on. And now, thankfully, he was able to resolve all of that in later life. He went through rehab and came back stronger than ever. And he really appreciated and loved his fans. Like, I've seen him like welcome people into his RV, to take pictures, sign autographs. So he really came to appreciate everything that he had, but he did go through that difficult period. And I tried to write that in Johnny's voice. And like the thing that's so unique about that song for me is what Kevmo brought to it.
Right.
He broke that song down and completely made it his own. He played all the instruments, and it's like when his voice comes in on those choruses, sounds like the Lone Star Blues. It's just like he introduces this note of compassion. It's as though he's the wise old blues man who is empathizing with young Johnny's dilemma. And it's such a beautiful transformation, and something that wouldn't be there in the song had it been only in Johnny's voice. So I just want to thank Kevmo for the great authentic blues interpretation and the beautiful vocal he did.
Well, and I thought that your voices and everything and the musicianship pairing were just perfect. And your voice sounded so much different on that track to me, Edgar, to where it wasn't your usual rock and roll delivery. Like, I remember, obviously, seeing you, on so many of the shows growing up, with like Don Kirshner's rock concert and Midnight Special, and you had the awesome rock and roll clothes and the keyboard, and you invented the keyboard strap before anybody else came out with this, just so that you could be out on the stage. And seeing things like that as a kid when I was growing up, it was certainly inspirational.
Well, thank you. I consider that one of the meaningful contributions that really changed the face of music. It was something that had never been seen before, and it allowed people to actually see what a keyboard player was doing. I'd been really frustrated being stuck behind a big bank of keyboards, and I had to get out there and boogie. And so it was really fun. And it seeming like a very simple and obvious idea. You would think someone surely would have thought of it, but I just happened to be the first one to do that. I never knew that it would actually be as big a thing as it turned out to be. But it's just one of those things that you never know in life. What it works in mysterious ways, and a very cool thing that I love that I've done.
Well, speaking of which, you've had, so many great albums over the years. That music that you were creating back then, and particularly with the song Frankenstein, which was #1, and I believe Free Ride hit number 14 on Billboard, to where it was so ahead of its time. And it was like almost like jam music and rock music, and you had all these different sounds and textures in one song.
Yeah, the irony of that song, we had never even intended to record Frankenstein. It was a live song that it was just a vehicle to feature the synthesizer. When I got the idea of putting the strap on the keyboard, and I said, no, I've got to have a song. So I had written that years ago. The dun, 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 dun. I did that with Johnny. I wrote that when I was sitting in with Johnny's trio. And I thought it was kind of a cool bluesy walk on. And we used to call it the double drum song. I played Hammond B3 and alto sax. And then I did a dual drum solo with Johnny's drummer, Red Turner. So we called it the double drum song. Jamming, you really pinpointed the thing for me. And it's true on this Brother Johnny album as well. You don't hear jamming anymore these days. Bands like Cream they were there to play. Mm-hmm. And in the making of this album, at times I question, maybe I'm making too much of a musician's album with extended solos and so forth, but that's who Johnny was.
Right.
And it wouldn't be honest if, had it been made any other way. So, it's not necessarily the other thing about the album is the first question in my mind is, should it just be a straight ahead blues record and pay tribute to the great legacy that Johnny left the world? Or should it be more of a personal dedication from me to my brother? I decided it should be a balance of both.
Right.
So I tried to make it that. And there were certain songs that were just obvious, like Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, Alive and Well. And then there were lots of cover songs that Johnny became identified with, like Jumpin' Jack Flash and Highway 61. And then there was his early stuff like Meantown Blues and I'm Yours and I'm Hers, that I to me, that's the hardcore Johnny Winter. And, Johnny was noted as a great blues player, but the thing, his authenticity as a slide player was the thing that most impressed me, both acoustic and electric. And all of those songs are perfect examples of one of his innovations that I don't think people are fully aware of or appreciate, and that's the fusion of blues and rock.
Right.
And I remember when the first time I heard Meantown Blues, I said, wow, it's sort of like this old primitive boogie delta kind of song, but then it's transformed into a hard driving electric rock, rock guitar context. How did he do that? And that sort of became the model of a lot of his early writing, that song being on the Progressive Blues Experiment. And that's exactly what it was.
At some point in your spare time, Edgar, you're going to have to do a whole book on all of these things with, you and Johnny growing up in Beaumont, Texas, and the careers and everything, because the pictures of you two together are just mesmerizing.
Well, thank you. I don't know if you've seen I'll just hold this. This is a 3D lenticular cover. And as you can see, as I alternated, my computer screen is kind of shining on it. But I got the idea for this, and I actually designed the covers, and I designed all of those visualizers that you were speaking about, something that I've never done before. But I just was so close to this record, and I just felt like I wanted to have my hand to some degree in every aspect of it. But to me, that vinyl cover is something really special. And there's also a 32-page booklet of liner notes, but it tells the whole story of how the album was made. I almost hesitate to call it a tribute album because a lot of times tribute albums, you can almost substitute copy album or sound-alike album. And that's not at all what I was trying to do, nor did I want to make a nostalgia album, just with all the usual suspects. I wanted a more varied cast of characters, and there are people on here that you might not expect, like Michael McDonald, Ringo Starr, Taylor Hawkins. It's not the album Johnny would have made, but it is the album I think he would have wanted me to make for him. And he always encouraged me to follow my heart in music. He knew that I loved jazz and classical. A perfect example of that is on the first album when he did Drown in My Own Tears. And I always felt like he did that song especially for me because he knew how much I loved Ray, and he wanted to do something that in the style that I would be able to contribute something in the way that I feel and understand music. And he said, well, just do the horn arrangements and play the keyboard just like Ray, and we'll do it. And so when I did that song, on this album. Definitely the most emotional song for me. I felt like I was singing that song back to him, just the way he sang it to me so many years ago when he was so young and vital and alive. And I thought not only of him, but my parents who've passed away, all my past band members, Ronnie Montrose, Chuck Ruff, Dan Hartman, Jerry LaCroix, the lead singer in White Trash, and Bobby Ramirez. I was singing that for them. And when I broke down and cried and got through it. But at the end of that was this beautiful feeling of serenity and catharsis, cleansing, healing. It was just a great feeling. And I knew that making this album would be highly emotional, and I didn't know what it was going to be, but it really turned out to be a joyous, uplifting experience. It's really a life-altering experience for me. I feel like after doing it, that I'm closer to Johnny in a way that I never would have expected. I'm so proud of this record, and it's one that I've seldom listened to my own music, but there are so many great performances on here that I actually enjoy listening to this record and get so much out of it every time I put it on. And that's what I hope it will be for everybody out there, that it will be a musical journey that you'll want to take over and over again.
With obviously, the album released in April and the CD, and then the vinyl will be coming out in June with the full, holographic cover with a 32-page book and everything else with the vinyl. Where should our viewers go for everything Edgar Winter and to be able to check out more on Brother Johnny?
They can go to edgarwinter.com, and that is the official site. Also, there is Facebook and Instagram. Those are all the places, and there'll be everything you'd want to know about this album right there on edgarwinter.com.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's an incredible album. Brother Johnny, I got to tell you, Edgar Winter, thank you so much for coming on the Rock and Review. I certainly hope you come through Nashville so I can see you live, and just keep making this great music that you do.
Well, thank you, Rick. And I would just like to thank all of the fans that have followed my career as well as that of my brother Johnny's throughout all of these years. We love you all, could not have done it without you. And it's meant the world to us to be able to do what we most love and see you all out there rocking and having a great time. So I hope to see you all this summer out on that long and grinding road. So as Ringo would say, peace and love. And as Johnny and I have always said, don't forget to keep on rocking.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.